Besides former FBI Director Jim Comey, there is pretty much no one more frequently attacked and maligned and feared, disliked by Donald Trump than New York Attorney General Letitia James. The New York AG brought a successful civil suit against Trump and his businesses, with the judge last year finding that Trump and his company knowingly committed fraud for years. Trump has maintained her case was a politically motivated attack against him. This May, an ally of Donald Trump's accused James of mortgage fraud, the same claim that has been made against other perceived enemies of Donald Trump. But now, according to new reporting by MSNBC, we're learning this, quote, a top prosecutor in Virginia has informed colleagues that she plans to decline to seek charges against New York Attorney General Tish James, resisting intense pressure from President Donald Trump. That's according to two people familiar with her discussions. Elizabeth Yusi, who oversees major criminal prosecutions in the Norfolk office of the Eastern District of Virginia, has confided to coworkers that she sees no probable cause to believe that James engaged in mortgage fraud, the two sources told MSNBC. Yusi plans to present her conclusions to the president's new acting U.S. attorney, Lindsay Halligan, in the coming weeks, they said. Halligan, keep in mind, is new to her position because her predecessor, Eric Siebert, followed a similar path. He resigned after he refused to bow to Trump's pressure campaign to criminally indict Jim Comey and James, despite knowing that there wasn't enough evidence to bring successful cases against either of them. So Halligan, the insurance lawyer, goes in there to do what Eric Siebert would not do. She did go on to get a grand jury to indict Jim Comey on 2 charges. And according to new reporting in Reuters, there was another individual who lost their job due to standing up to Trump's wishes, defying Trump's wishes, to perp walk Jim Comey. Quote, an FBI agent was relieved of duty for declining to arrange a perp walk of the Bureau's former director, Jim Comey, in front of news media cameras after Comey was federally charged last month. That's according to 4 people briefed on the matter. That is where we begin the hour. Some of our favorite reporters and friends. MSNBC senior investigative correspondent Carol Leonnig is here. She and our colleague Ken Delaney were first to report on this new prosecutor resisting bringing charges against Letitia James. Also joining us, former acting assistant attorney general for national security at the Department of Justice, Mary McCord. And with me at the table, retired FBI agent, MSNBC national security and intelligence analyst Chris O'Leary is back. Carol Leonnig, take me through what you're reporting.
Well, what we heard, Nicole, over the last couple of, days and hours is that a prosecutor who's a supervisor had a job like Mary McCord's was many years ago, overseeing criminal prosecutions for her U.S. Attorney's Office. She concluded that there's just not probable cause to bring the case of mortgage fraud or bank fraud or any kind of fraud against Letitia James based on the documentation and the evidence before her. We're also hearing that in the grand jury, material has been brought forward, witnesses have been asked questions, and her conclusion is the same as Eric Siebert, her former boss, the U.S. Attorney of the Eastern District, who said there's just not a sufficient basis to bring this case. And, you know, Nicole, I want to emphasize something for people at home who aren't lawyers or don't follow this the way you and I do. It is a prosecutor's job and almost their solemn vow to bring cases where they believe they have a very high likelihood of sustaining and convicting on the charges they bring. And in this instance now, multiple people have concluded. Career prosecutors, supervisors, Trump appointees have said, we don't have a basis to do this. So that is why it's so stunning that yet another person is still pushing for this, Donald Trump. And it's also stunning that another person way down in a small, tiny office of the Eastern District of Virginia is willing to put her neck out there and say, this case still doesn't fly.
Carol, let me read a little bit more of your reporting and then ask you what the response has been to your reporting. You write this, quote, on Friday, the top national security prosecutor in Virginia's Eastern District railed against Justice Department political appointees for carrying out Trump's directives rather than fulfilling their oaths to, quote, follow the facts and the law wherever they lead, free from fear or favor, and unhindered by political interference. The prosecutor, Michael Ben-Ari, had been fired after a Trump ally questioned his loyalty to Trump in a social media post. Ben-Ari wrote in a letter, quote, "In recent months, the political leadership of the department have violated these principles, jeopardizing our national security and making American citizens less safe." I wonder, Carol, if you can just speak to how extraordinary all the calls from inside the House are. These are all people that did not leave after last November when Trump won. They're not people who left after January 20th when he was inaugurated and went to the Department of Justice and gave a speech, which is extraordinarily rare, exceedingly rare, I believe unprecedented, where he called out people like Mark Elias for prosecution. They didn't leave when he started tweeting at Pam. I mean, they have stayed there to do whatever they could do to protect the institution they love. Most people have these jobs for a very, very long time. A lot of career people don't go there to jump to a law firm to make more money. They are true public servants, especially on the national security side. What do all of these calls, and I just want to put up a list: Danielle Sassoon, former acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, resigned. Hagen Scotton, Sassoon's deputy, resigned. Eric Siebert, the former attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, who refused to charge Jim Comey and Tish James, resigned. Elizabeth Oyer, former pardon lawyer who refused to reinstate Mel Gibson's gun rights, fired. Michael Feinberg, now a contributor here, former FBI assistant special agent who was targeted for being friends with Pete Strzok, resigned. Brian Driscoll, Steve Jensen, Spencer Evans, former senior FBI leadership who filed a lawsuit saying they were dismissed in a campaign of retribution, fired. And the stories we're talking about today, FBI agent who refused to arrange the perp walk for Comey, fired. What does it say that all these calls are from inside?
And by the way, Nicole, when you list all those names, it's kind of devastating, right? But I could add about 25 more that are critical to the, metaphorical security blanket that is wrapped around America, and now those people are no longer inside. You said something so important, and it's about the mission that people have sworn themselves and their lives and their free time to. The mission is so important and motivating for so many of the individuals that you've described, but also thousands more who stay in the Department of Justice despite this amazing, it's not even a tilt, despite this amazing effort to use the power of this institution to basically avenge Donald Trump's anger and his desire for retribution, and to meet his specific whims at that time, his political gain, his personal gain. So many of these people remain there hoping, and I've talked to many of them, hoping that they will be a bulwark against exactly that they will put their bodies essentially in front of the bulldozer as it's coming their way. And as you have reported, as we have reported, as my colleague Ken and I have tried to document, the bulldozer is coming for more and more of them every day.
Well, let's keep the bulldozer going. I mean, is this prosecutor who says there's no case against Letitia James, is her job safe? Is she still working there today?
She is. There are people bracing for her presentation to the acting U.S. attorney, Lindsay Halligan, to have consequences. We don't speculate about what's going to happen. We know what's happened in the rear view to the former U.S. attorney who said there was insufficient evidence to bring this case. And there's a perfectly good reason for her peers and colleagues to be worried about her future. I will remind you that in the Southern District, you mentioned Danielle Sassoon, the former U.S. attorney, a Republican, a Federalist Society member, chosen specifically for that acting position when Trump first got into office because she was believed to be somebody so-called on the team. And, there are a lot of people who are in the Justice Department leadership right now, political appointees, who are trying to avoid the bloodbath that followed Danielle Sassoon resigning rather than dismiss the charges, the corruption charges against Mayor Eric Adams in New York. And one after another, a bulldozer came for those individuals, and they resigned rather than give Trump what he wanted.